Hello all, thank you so much for being on the call. We're going to wait about 2 minutes if anybody else joins. And if you could please mute yourself if you're on, that would be fantastic.
Mad crying, like
So and our flight's at 8:30, so we'll talk close there. Should be good.
I'm a person. Okay, cool. No, I think she's good. I think she's gonna go to her friends and then she's gonna end up there. See you in a bit. Later.
Awesome, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. There will be some people that obviously join in. First and foremost, like I said, thank you for joining us today. And we're in snowy Colorado. We got our first snowstorm today. We have a winter storm warning, so we're super excited about that. We're excited about the club volleyball season that's right around the corner. And first and foremost, like I said, we're going to go through some things today. This is not like a Q&A, answer back and forth. The big topics that we want to cover today with you all is our U.S. club rankings. There's been a lot of questions about how that works and how it, we haven't really given the details behind it for the last few years since COVID, but there's a lot of questions on seating and hotel placement and the whole 9 yards. So Sean's gonna go through that today. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about some just NIT updates since we're about 93 or 4 days away from the NIT. We just want to make sure that you guys have all the information before the holidays ramp up. And then the last topic we're going to talk, that's really a key thing that everybody loves to talk about and is advocating for their clubs, is the power pool selection process and how we're going to handle that this year. So I'm Jared. I'm one of the NIT directors. I've worked with the majority of you, and I appreciate you being on the call and also continue to support the Triple Crown NIT in Kansas City.
And then I'm Brooke Paxton. I do a lot of event support. So I do our college camps, our transportation, our rosters, all that kind of stuff.
I'm Sarah. I am the one who is handling all of our lodging this coming year and have for the last couple years, and am growing to be co-director with Jared of NIT.
And I am Sean Hardy. Thank you for being on. Most of you, or a lot of you, have been with us since the beginning. I, along with this team of people, help out where I can, but I more, since back in the day, started the rankings platform based off of feedback that everybody had. So that's the only really reason they need me in the room right now, is, go over the rankings piece of this. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. And like Jared said, this isn't debate back and forth, and the rankings aren't right, or there's probably 3 other ways. This is just how they're used, how they're formed, and we are looking at in the future having a couple other meetings where it is interactive and you can give feedback one way or another. So you may love what's happening here, you may not like what's happening here. It's been the same since we started 12 years ago, so there's probably some updates that we could do to it. But I just want to pull the curtain back and let you guys kind of see how all that works, because more and more we're getting newer clubs or different club directors that haven't seen this before or didn't realize how we were using it. So I'm going to share my screen here.
And then just work off of the screen.
This screen?
Yeah, don't click that.
Okay.
No, Sean, don't do that.
Shoot. All right, can you see my screen? It says Volleyball Nationals.
Just someone say yes.
Yeah, just somebody on mic and say yes if you can see that.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Pull that screen over this way.
I'm trying to
Just
manage
double click it.
2 screens here, and I'm not good at it. Okay, perfect. There we go. All right. So it's just usclubrankings.com. It's transferable. Everybody is out there can see it. It's not, you don't have to log into it. And every year we compile by age group rankings of 18, 17, 16s, all the way down to 12s. And what we tried to do was be unique and it's not based off of just your games or matches that you play on AES, or if you're just AAU, or you're just USA, or you're just JVA, or it doesn't matter. We try to take in a lot of things into consideration. And so it was built to be kind of a bigger platform, no matter what events you played in. And so this is the front end. You could click into this and see the rankings every year by age, but I'm going to show you the back end of the site and kind of then how we got to some of the club rankings that are important to who gets invited to the NIT and how that works. So as you can see here under events, we take events all the way back to 2010. So if I clicked on, I'll actually just click on 2011. These are all the events that were ran in 2011 that had good team participation. There's only about 45 tournaments in that year that really had good participation in it, meaning lots of teams, bigger brackets, lots of age groups. Now you go to 2022, there are over 300 tournaments that are inside this system. I could keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you can see them by date. Over here in January alone, we had 40 tournaments. And so we go in and pull those results of each of those tournaments. And so, for example, I just happened to stop on the Bluegrass tournament that happens. You can click on this and you can see that they have 32 different age groups that are associated with this tournament through divisions, not age groups, sorry, different divisions within that tournament. So we capture all results, whether they were open, elite, or whether they were the lowest bracket that's available in that specific tournament. This tournament's big. I shouldn't have probably clicked on this one, but I'll wait another second here to see if it pops up the results. And we actually have to go into whatever software they're using, whether it's TM2 Sign or Sports Wrench or Advanced Event System, and pull the results. So here's all the divisions that were in that tournament, and I could click on, let's just hit 17 Open, and down below then it will show the results of 17 Open or 17 Club, whichever one I want to look at, and they don't, like, some people are like, well, is Club better than Premier, or is Premier better than Open? Each tournament has a certain way that they announce it or seed them. Some are open clubs. We use Elite. And so for us, it really doesn't matter what you name it. But then you could come down here and see the results. Here's who won, all their team numbers. Here's how many teams they've had in that specific division. This division had 38 teams. Who won it, who took second, and this was the one I clicked on was 17 Open. This happens for every single tournament in the country that we can find that's of relevance. So we spend all year loading these tournaments into the system. And again, right now, we don't necessarily know whether Club or Open or which one's the most competitive division based off of the name. On the right-hand side, I have every club in the country that's listed because we use your USAV codes or the codes that you load in at AES to track and put them to your club. So I can click on a club here, any club, and it shows like your history as a club, what you've done over the last 10 years, or if you're a newer club, the last 2 years. And a lot of times when I'm on Zoom, or it's a little bit slower than it would normally be here because there's so much tied up into the connection that we have. But because of how much data is in the system since we went back to 2010, it does run a little bit slower than we would like, but I could pick clubs and pick Norco Volleyball Club here in Colorado, and I can see how any of their teams have done over the past years on all the events that we've loaded inside the system, all right? Then what we do is we each week we take whatever results are on Monday and we go to AES and Sports Wrench and TM2 Sign, and we pull all those results and put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and then we upload them into this system. And the system doesn't really count like who beat who or by what point spread you beat somebody. Did you win in 5 sets or 3 sets? It doesn't take any of that into consideration. It purely takes whether you won or lost.
Brooke's doing it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. Won or lost in the tournament is how we look at this. The other thing that we don't do is we don't just give points. So the more tournaments you play in, the more points you get. It doesn't matter whether a club plays in 3 tournaments, or I'm sorry, that specific team plays in 3 tournaments, or that specific team plays in 10 tournaments. It doesn't take that into consideration. You don't just get more points the way you played. And so we built this. Originally, we flew a bunch of club directors into our offices in 2013 and 2014 and said, what was missing in the ranking world? How does this work? So there's a couple different ranking platforms out there, but they were unique to, like, if you go to AES, that rankings platform has a good ranking, but it's only if your results are in AES. It doesn't take into consideration other organizations or other websites that are out there. Inside of the this data, then at the end of the year, as we load all these tournaments, we can then create a rank. And how we rank this, and this is going slow, but how it works is that when we talk to teams, they said that the 2 things that they really are playing for is 2 end of the year tournaments. We want to win AAU Open, or we want to win USA Open. And again, this was in 2014 that you guys go try to qualify, or you try to get your team ready and prepared that you're peaking at the end of the year and you want to win one of those tournaments. And those are the flags that you fly in your gyms. Those are the feathers you put in your hat as far as it comes to as national championships that are out there in the marketplace. So all the things you do in the tournaments you choose to play in throughout the year are to lead you to get to one of those 2 championships. And so we weight those 2 championships a little bit higher than a normal tournament that we would with a normal tournament. And so once all the results are put in, we take all the teams that qualified in, I'm just going to take an age group, 17s in USA 17 Open, and we take the teams that played in AAU at 17 Open. And in AAU, since it's open to anybody that wants to get in, we really focus on those top 8 to 12 teams, not necessarily if there were 32 or 42 in the bracket, the bottom teams, because we realize that there's teams that just want to go play in there that probably don't fit or aren't at the same level as those top 8 that go into that bracket. So they aren't weighted the same because of the volume of teams in the number of points that they get. But what we're able to do, and I need this to work to show you something, but let me get out of a couple screens and let me refresh ranking. Come on.
She's really thinking hard today, isn't she?
Yeah.
Are you trying to get that 5-year ranking?
No, I'm trying to get this to open so I can show actually what a ranking looks like there. I'm sorry for flipping back and forth. I was seeing if I can get this to work. But what happens is in the system, it'll say, here's all the open teams that played in those 2 tournaments, which there's usually 40 to 50 in there, and how they finished. And because I've already loaded all the codes into the system for every tournament, it knows where you all played. So it knows that out of the top teams that either qualified for 17 Open or finished in the top 8 of AAU Open, which tournaments were the most competitive. So by running the ranking, it has analysis that tells me that 6 of those top 25 teams played in XYZ's tournament or played in the Bluegrass tournament that we're currently on. And we'll notice that out of the Triple Crown tournament, there were 20 teams that played out of the top 25 in that event at the beginning of the year. So technically, when we're able to look at the analysis of this, Triple Crowns tournament shows up as one of the most competitive tournaments in the country, with the most teams that finished high in AAU and high in USA Open, all played at the Triple Crown tournament. So theoretically, Triple Crown, when it comes to the analysis, was one of the toughest tournaments, even tougher than AAU, even tougher than USA, because of the combination of all those teams going. The difference being that Triple Crown's at the beginning of the year and not at the end of the year. So a lot of you aren't in full swing yet. We're playing to get to the first recruiting weekend of the year, so we're trying to get some kids seen. We still want to win that, but at the end of the years when everybody's competing. So we always compare it to like an NFL season or a baseball season. It's great that you were the league champs or that you did the best during the year, but really who won the Super Bowl in the end of the season out there. So Triple Crown does get a lot of points, but it doesn't get the same amount of points as USA. And the only reason for that, or AAU, the only reason for that is because it's not an end of the year tournament. So once we load that into the system and we get this kind of who we think are the top 50 teams based off of these results, it shows us all the tournaments that are loaded in the country. Oh, Gateway failed. Failing. All right. See if I can relog in here. No. All right. So it looks at all the tournaments all the teams that played in those tournaments. So I can sort and say that in this tournament, in Bluegrass, let's just stay with that. In the 17 Open, there were 7 of the top 10s teams in the country that played in that event. Or in the Sunshine Qualifier, there were 8 teams out of the top 10 that played in that event. And then that's how we weight how strong each of those tournaments are. So not all tournaments are created equal. In one year, the Colorado Crossroads used to be a really strong tournament, and there were 32 teams that played in Open, and it would always have at least 10 or 15 teams that were in the top 25 playing that tournament. But then it didn't become a qualifier, it moved over, and now it's got nobody that's of the top. Our analysis of the rankings tells us which one of those tournaments are the most competitive. So then once we have the end of the year ranking, it shows us that the Bluegrass tournament for 17 Open was the 5th strongest tournament in the country. 17 Club was the 56th strongest tournament in our division in the country, and their 17 Orange bracket was the 150th strongest tournament in the country. And that's how then we set the points of how many points each of these tournaments get over the year. So it's not just based off of how they did last year or how many teams they have in it. It's actually how strong that division is. Then what we do is once we've pointed all the tournaments, or we've weighted all the tournaments, we've given them a point total. So if you win, I'm making this up, but you get 200 points. If you took second, you get 195. If you took third, you get 100. If you tied for third, you get 180. And then it starts widening the span of points. And if you were 30th, you may only get 150 points. So we point all the tournaments, and then we run the ranking. And then what we do is we only take your best 3 results, okay? So we don't just take all your results. We only take your best 3 point totals. So if you went to AAU and USA and Triple Crown, and those were your 3 highest point totals finishes, then we would count those. But if AAU wasn't your best tournament and Bluegrass was, then it would take your best 3 results. So everybody, we noticed that if you're a team that plays regionally or nationally, there's so many tournaments out there in the country now that most all teams play at least 3 events. And so those 3 totals are calculated, and then that's how we rank your team as far as 1 through 2057. Like, it goes all the way down. We only publicize the top 100 in the national ranking, but we do have results all the way down to who was the 2,500 ranked team in the system. And so once those are actually, come on. Once those national rankings are done by age, okay, once the national rankings are done by age, you have to be considered in the club rankings, which is this rankings that we're currently talking about. This is what decides what clubs get invites into the teams. And we didn't want, back in the day, we didn't want it to be where you could just have one good year and get in. So like, oh, all of a sudden you're a good club, you stole some kids, or a team left you and went to somebody else. You had to prove yourself over time that you were traditionally a good club. And it's a 5-year time frame that we look at. So what you can see here in the analysis of this is we take your 18 and under ranking. So if you had an 18-year-old team that finished 5th, then, or in this case, you finished 1st, you got 100 points for finishing 1st. And in 2022, but your 18-year-old team at the national ranking in 2021 finished 5th. In 2019, you finished 6th. In 2018, you finished 25th. And in 2017, you finished 75th in the 18s division nationally at the national level. So only the elite, the open, that type of a scenario. So that's your history of your 18s team over time. This is a history of your 17s team over time, your 16s, your 15s, and your 14s. We don't take into consideration your 11s, 12s, or 13s. It's only 14s and up. So we also don't want you to rest on your laurels, and we try to weight each of the age groups differently. So your 18-year-old finish is top 25%, it counts for 25%. Your 17 counts for 25%. Your 16's 25. Your 15's 15-year-old 15%, and your 14's 10% of that total. So you'll notice you had 100 points times 25, or 25% is 25 points, 24 points, 22 points. And then you add those up for that year of 2022, and notice that you had 90 points for that year for your club. The year before you had 62 points, 69, 78, or 67. That's your year's history. And you have to have teams that finish in the top 100 even to be considered in this and get points. If you have a team that finished 110th, you're not getting any points for that year, or for that team, sorry. But then we don't want to rest even on the years, so we take that 90%, the 90 points total that you got for 2022, and we give you 35% of that for being good in 2022. We take your 2021 results and give you 25%. Your 2020 results give you 20% and on down. So if you add this up, then this club got 76.27 points over their 5-year history of each of these age groups over time. And this is publicized on the site. So I'm running through it pretty fast, but you can go see it on the site. And then you can correlate that to on the site. You can also go see where your 18s ranked in all the years back. You could go all 5 of these years back and see where each of your teams rank. Now, some of you guys have 2 teams that ranked in the top 100. So sometimes your 17s ones team finished 5th in the country, and your 17s twos team finished 47th. We don't count, you don't get credit for both those teams. You only get credit for your best 15s, your best 14s, your best 16s, 17s, and 18s. That's all we give you credit for in this system. Now then, you can look at a history here of this chart that I'm just going to give a unique team there is Houston Skyline. They're currently number 9, but in 2014, they were ranked 52. In 2015, they were 52. Then in 2016, they moved up to 45. In 2017, they moved to 32, then 29, then 18, then 12, and then 9. So this is their progression over time. And so what happens is if once I get into 2023, you're going to drop your 2017 score now. So it's always a running 5 years. So if we do next year's, you don't get credit for all the good things you did in 2017 anymore, or it doesn't hurt you that you didn't have any teams in 2017 because now you're adding in another age group to it and you're dropping that lower year. So here is then on the right-hand side is where the point totals were that we just talked about for each team and how they've grown or how they've declined. So there's other teams in here where I can look back. Oh, come on. Okay. And see that they weren't ranked at all. So Drive Nation, who's here, is now 45th, but they weren't even in existence before. So they didn't have enough points before because they hadn't had the 5 years. Not that it's not a good club or it didn't have a really good year, but to be in this rankings, we use those 5 years. So even though now they have enough points that they see themselves on this board, and you can, for us, we look and say, okay, Austin Juniors was 13th, now they're 37. They went to 37, now they're back to 34. Can you see some tendencies of like, is the club evolving? Is the club staying pretty steady? Is the club declining? We can see this every year when we do the top 100 clubs and we post this. And so there's histories, and we just post this one because you can look back and say that in 2018, the #1 club in the country was Texas Advantage. Number 2 was A5. Number 3 was OTVA. Number 4 was Kiva. And so you can see history of what happened, and then you can see hiccups. You know, I know Kiva's on the call. They didn't have such a great year this year, and that counted as 35% of their points. Now they're like, okay, we're going to regroup, and kick everybody's ass, and we'll be back up in the top 10 next year because it'll lower that percentage of that one bad year from 35 to 25. And by God means that I say they had a bad year compared to their standards. They didn't have the best year ever when you look at some of the results, but now that's going to drop to only 25%, and their new results for 2023 will weight them higher, and they start moving back up and down. So this is what we use, is the 5-year history of invites to the tournament. We use this for lodging. We use this for other things out there, is a trend or a history of a club, not just what you did last year, or your club had one really good year and now you should be considered one of the top clubs in the country just because of 1 year. You can tell that there's all these clubs that are up there in the top 50. Even this is top 100, should be very proud of being able to stay in this. You can see Vision in 2014 and 15 was the #4 club in the country. Now they're 42. And so they are like, okay, how do we get better? How do we qualify more teams? How do we finish higher? What tournaments do we go to that's going to get us some more? If this really matters to them, they're going to try to find ways to, and I know some clubs, based off of this decision, that have told me that, is we place coaches at certain positions because of the weight that it means to our ranking. So we put one of our top coaches on 18s to make sure we keep all those top kids, even though 18s have now not necessarily, don't have a full season, don't go through the same as what they did back in 2014. So we're talking and we'll have this debate throughout the year, is should 18s be weighed the same as they were 5 years ago when 18s was this a whole different animal than it is, and kids weren't leaving as fast. Kids were still playing on those competitive teams. Kids weren't leaving early. But now that that's happening, should 18s drop to 20% and 15s go up to 20%? Or let's just say we switch it and 18s go to 15% and 15s go to 25%. Well, there's club coaches then would say, okay, now we're really going to put that top coach on our 15s because we want that success and keep those going because it really matters in our rankings. So some people take this really seriously and understand it. Others are like, we're still going to coach and run our club the way we are. But some people pick tournaments based off of feedback that we give them. Like, this is always a stronger tournament where even if you finished 5th in this tournament, because it's so strong, you get more points than if you finished 1st in that tournament because there weren't as competitive teams in it or there weren't as many teams in it. So those things matter. You can finish 10th in a tournament or a qualifier and get just as many points as winning 1st in, let's just say, a regional event or a qualifier that didn't have as many good teams as it traditionally had in the past. So that's how all that works. There's methodology on the front end of the website that kind of talks about how the national club rankings are done, how the regular rankings are done. So you can see this and follow this on your own time. What I'll do is, again, I don't know why it's not working all of a sudden. It was working earlier today. But if there is a group of people that want some more in-depth, I'll do a separate Zoom, and we'll just actually go through each event. You can see how they're pointed. You can see how those results get up. If you go to the front end of the website and click on the rankings, you can see your results or the team's results out there. So sorry it didn't work as good as I wanted it to, but I just wanted to give you guys a general overview of the rankings and then how it relates to the NIT is specifically, and that it's public knowledge for anybody to see, and the way that it's ranked and how it works is public knowledge also, if you just know where to go look and see it. Okay, thank you for letting me be part of the first 30 minutes, and I'm going to pass this along now to Jared. Sarah.
It's me. Yes.
Sarah.
One thing with rankings though is if you can, and we'll send this link out in the recorded video. If you want to send a link to your families, feel free to please do that. A lot of parents call in and ask Sarah, why is my team placed at this property? My club's ranked, 33rd in AES. We don't use the AES system. Like Sean mentioned earlier, there's over 2,000 events that are in our system that we utilize the rankings for those to get our data points for our ranking system. So it's a pretty detailed ranking system. We've talked to AAU and USA Volleyball about potentially using some of our rankings. We've actually put more resources into it for the future, that we actually might have someone on our staff that does this weekly, and that we might be able to publish a ranking every month, kind of like what ABCA does, like college volleyball, BCS. So we can utilize some of our rankings for maybe seeding other tournaments down the road. So,
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah, if you guys have any further questions of some more specific questions with what the US Club Rankings is, I would be a great resource to go ahead and answer those questions and or reach out to Sean with some answers with that as well. So just keep us in the loop. The next thing that we're going to go ahead and talk about while we're talking over the US Club Rankings is what our lodging policy is, specifically for the NIT. We have touched many times in this 30 minutes that we use the US Club Rankings, the 5-year overall rank for teams that are admitted, for clubs that we bring in, all those type of things. That is the ranking that I am basing our lodging placement off of. And so the placement is done off of a trickle down system. As you guys just saw, Mizuno A5 is #1 this year. So they were the first club that was placed for NIT. And then I trickled all the way down through our list. So our top 15 to our top 25 ranked clubs that are attending the NIT, and I believe that this year, out of the top 25 ranked clubs, we have 22 or 23 of those top 25 clubs that are attending the tournament. Those were the first groups of people that received their lodging. From there, I went to 26 through 50, who then received their lodging links, and so on and so forth. So just understanding that we want the most competitive event, we want the most competitive teams, and something that we wanted to integrate. And from what the market, when we were originally building the NIT, was the top priority teams who are the most competitive, the ones who bring, like, all of the other teams want to come and play, wanted to have priority with what we were doing with lodging. So that's hence why we have kind of modified our lodging policy towards that. A friendly reminder that the NIT is a stay to play event. It is a requirement for you to stay within the block that is allocated to you, for you guys to mark off your stay to play for the NIT. The minimum of what we're looking like for this is about 24 room nights per team. For example, that can be 8 rooms over 3 nights. That would fill your basic requirement. We understand that there are going to be some teams that are out there that don't travel with any parents due to COVID or financial situations, and you only need 4 or 5 team rooms and then 1 for your coach. We're not going to kick you out of the tournament for that. However, if you have 15 kids that are on your roster and 2 coaches and everyone is traveling with your parents, and you only book 4 rooms out of what we allocate towards you, then that's where we start having some issues. Like I said, all reservations do need to be made with the link that is provided to you. We have switched over last year, and this year we're using the Event Connect booking platform system. Hopefully you guys have found that to be pretty user friendly. I've gotten some great feedback since we've switched from our old platform to this new one. It's great if you guys need help with any modifications with rooms. They have a support team. It is pretty straightforward. However, if you have any questions with adding shoulder nights or whatever that is, you can reach out to me and or support@eventconnect.io to make any of those modifications. Just one last friendly reminder that we do not have a buyout option in our lodging policy. It is a requirement for parents, for coaches, for players, for anyone else to stay in your guys' allocated block of rooms. So we have had what we saw movement-wise of the U.S. club rankings from 2021 to 2022. We did have some shifts. I think Drive Nation was a really great example of that, of not being ranked. I think in 2021 they were ranked at 75, and then this last upcoming year they were ranked in 45. That significantly bumps them up in when they are allocated their link and potentially the rooms that are available during that time. So Sean said, like, some people like really think hard about what this US club rankings look like, and some people just kind of are like, oh, it is what it is. For specific movements like that, when it comes to lodging, it is significant. So again, if you guys have any more questions or want information or want some feedback of specific tournaments that might be good for your teams to play in to make sure that you are moving up in the rank, we'd be more than willing to have those conversations with you. Great.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Ricky.
All right, and then I just have a couple of updates in regards to some on-site things. So one being our transportation is live on our website now. We run that the 17th, so that Friday, and that will run from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. It takes you from the airport to the convention center. It does not take you to your specific hotel. So that is typically an issue that we run into with people not understanding. So I just want to make that clear. And then also on that Monday, the 20th, it will run from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Doing the same thing from the convention center to the airport. If you have large groups, so say that you want to buy it for your entire club, don't go through our website and do that. I'm saving you a lot of work because it'll require you to fill in the individual passenger information. If you have a group that is larger than 10, call me and I will get you all taken care of, especially if everybody's on the same flight or 2 different flights, whatever it is. It's just a lot easier that way than it would be if you were to do it on your own. So that's all of it for transportation.
So
go ahead.
And on transportation, you do have to purchase by January 15th. just because we have, with inflation and all the prices in the market right now with buses and transportation and gas, we're finding it's a very big need in Kansas City. And so we have several buses on reserve under contract. We do have to release those by a certain deadline, so we're not charged. So if you want to jump on this by January 15th, we would need you to get your families and or teams to purchase. And I would highly recommend it. A lot of you have utilized it over the years. Last year, that obviously the huge snowstorm that came in. Hopefully that, knock on wood, doesn't happen again this year. But we definitely have a professional group and our professional Triple Crown staff on site at the airport. There is a small chance the new airport will be open by President's Day weekend, is what I've been told. I've actually been to Kansas City. I'll be there in December. Again, if that's the case, it actually will make all of your travels better and more user-friendly at the airport. The new airport is phenomenal. So, but we're not sure if that will be open by February. Small chance it will be.
And along with that, the pricing for transportation, when you look at it in reference to what an Uber or a Lyft would cost you, you're actually saving a lot of money and you're saving a lot of time, because the rideshare options, so Uber, Lyft, all of those are not super reliable, especially if there's snow. We do not want you having to pay $120 for an Uber when you could have paid significantly less. I want to say it's $35 round trip for our transportation service. So that's just something to keep in mind and something to pass along to your families, because if they try and buy on site, it's typically not going to work. So I would just really suggest getting that out there to your families.
Rosters. Yep, that's good.
Okay. The next thing is our Camp Friday that we will be running on Friday the 17th. It looks a little different than it has in the past due to NCAA legislation changes in regards to Division I coaches not being able to be paid to run a camp during that time. It is still a recruitable event. They are still able to be there. Our College Camp Friday, which typically has always been D1, high-level D2 coaches, is now D2 through NAIA coaches, top level. And they're still, again, recruitable by Division I coaches. We are also running our unsigned workout, which we have now opened up to sophomores. So it's the recruiting classes of 23 through 25 that will be able to participate in that, not just juniors and seniors. There is a very limited amount of spots available for that, and we have a huge college coach turnout for that every year. I think last year we had over 200. So I would highly recommend that. And then we also have our master class, which is a brand new camp that we are running this year, and that will be put on by Tara Cross Battle, Loy Ball, and Danielle Scott, who are all former Olympians. And then our last one is our Future Stars camp, which is for 14s and below, to just get some extra touches, get some great coaching, and that will be offered on that Friday as well. Ran by West Lions from Munciana. So all of these camps, I know it's the day before big competition, all of these camps will be run as low impact, no 6-on-6, any of that. So I highly encourage your athletes to be a part of that. We're inputting rosters as we speak. So as those get inputted, families will get that information, but since we don't have everybody's rosters in yet, if you can just pass that information along, that would be really great. Anything else on camps?
Perfect.
Okay, and last but not least from me is rosters. It is the single-handedly probably one of the most important things that I do with Triple Crown, and also the bane of my existence at the same time. So it is a very time-consuming process to input rosters on our system. So we have given you guys the opportunity to just send us your information, and then we manage it for you on the back end of our site. We went through a complete roster overhaul on the back end this past year, and even the user side of our website looks different. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me. Me and Kyle, who is our seasonal worker, are both handling that this year. So just know that we are in the process of doing that. Currently, as it sits right now, we have 52 clubs that have not sent in their rosters yet at all, or haven't paid. So December 1st is that cutoff to get your rosters into us. And then December 15th is the deadline to pay. If I do not have your payment in by December 15th, we're going to have to look into our wait list of somebody to fill your spot, because that really puts us 2 months before the event. And we do have a very extensive wait list. So we want to make sure that our event is full and all of that is taken care of. Another thing, if you do decide to input your rosters on your own, that's totally fine. You won't be able to change your head coaches, so you'll have to reach out to me for that, which is a really simple fix. But please let us know if you are inputting them or not. That way I'm not sending you 7 emails in the next month of trying to get those in from you. So if you have any roster issues or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. It's just brooke@triplecrownsports.com, and I will get that taken care of for you. And then along with rosters comes waivers. So every single athlete and coach and team admin that is at our event has to have a current waiver signed through our system. It is not a waiver that we send out individually or separately. It's just as soon as they get added into our system, they get sent a waiver. So I know a lot of athletes have theirs signed from last year, but a lot of those will expire before the NIT happens. So we will be going through and making sure that all of those are updated. But if you can help us with that, we would greatly appreciate it.
Perfect.
Good job.
Also, there's a few of you that have already notified Brooke that your teams won't be set in stone with your rosters until maybe mid-December. We've noted that, so your December 1st deadline is obviously not accurate for you. But just if you have, I know some clubs do their tryouts right now. They have training and they actually separate their teams in December. If you're one of those clubs, just let us know so we're not hounding you for your roster, knowing that that's going to come a little later. So you also don't have to, we also do not require chaperones. We do allow 3 coaches on each roster. So just something to think about too for you. We're not USA Volleyball, so we're not really required to have chaperones on the roster, and 3 coaches per team. Thank you, Brooke. Is that you good with that?
That's
perfect. So I'm going to touch base on 2 big topics that have come up in the off season. One is how do we invite? What are our protocols? And so we did change our new format for 2024. We've listened to the market about second teams. We've listened to the market about quality finishes. We really want to make this event at elite status and not just a bunch of teams that get in. Sarah and I have managed all of the invites by hand on who gets invited to the event. And so we do have some new changes for 2024. I'm not going to go through them with you right now because there's a document on our website that lists it in detail on how you'll get invited back for next year. And it's a lot tougher to get invited back. So just want you to be aware of that. And that's getting feedback from you guys as a market that you don't want this to become a cattle call, just tons of teams. And so make sure you go look at that. I will also send that in an email to you with the recorded link to this video that you're more than happy to share with your coaches or anybody on staff that wasn't able to start or be on the meeting today. Talking about power pools, it's always a topic. I've already gotten people sending emails and text messages requesting that their teams be in power pools for 2023. It's a very challenging process. And it takes a lot of work. Sean and I have done a lot of work in the background throughout the years on researching results, researching rosters, using some of the media outlets that are out there, and utilizing you all as advocates and knowledgeable people in your markets to give us feedback on not only your teams, but other teams, right? And so I don't know everybody's roster from year to year and the changeover. So we're going to streamline this process a little bit more this year to make sure that we don't have anybody outside looking in power pools, and also just so we can get better relationships with all of you and also get better relationships with your rosters and understanding where kids are going. We've done a great job in our media department at finding, we have a link now, I believe, that kids can go on, and we highlight them on social media and give them kudos. That's something that we're doing, which is brand new this year. So with that being said, a few things, and just so you can write this down if you have a notepad, our 12-year-olds will not have any power pools. We have 16 teams. There will not be any power pools in 12-year-olds. And 13-year-olds, we have a total of 32 teams, and we have 8 teams that will start in power pool. And 14s, we have 72 total teams, and we have 24 teams that will go into power pools. And then 15s, 16s, 17s, and 15s, we have 104 teams, and we have 32 power pool teams. 16s and 17s, we have 120 teams in each division. 32 teams will be in power pools. And then in 18s, we have 104 teams, and 32 teams will make it into power pools. So you just have an idea of where the numbers are at with all of that. We are currently sold out at every age group, and we have, like Brooke said, a large wait list of teams that are still looking at trying to get in, and we don't want to string along those teams or those coaches. We would like them to obviously play that weekend with someone. It's important for kids to get in front of college coaches. So if you're for any reason you're on this call and you're like, I don't have a good enough team to come to the NIT, which we just had a team drop yesterday and we were able to backfill right away. Please just be honest with us about that, because we want your team to have the best experience. We want our competition to be the best for one another. We also want families to have great experiences. So if you know that through tryouts, if you have late tryouts right now, if you're a fall or a winter tryout team and you don't have the level of team that needs to be at the NIT, even though we saved you a spot or you paid, just let us know and we'll definitely take care of you. So the power pool selection will be done through a JOT form this year. Brooke will send that JOT form out to you by Friday, tomorrow. And you can start filling that out now if you would like. And so, and also on that form, it's very important, if you are not the one filling out the form and you give it to a coach on staff or a coach of that team to advocate for that specific team, make sure they put their name and cell phone number on it, because we will utilize communication back and forth with you all in regards to power pool selections. And so that JOT form will have things like finish from last year, how many athletes on your team were recruited, or if you're a 17s, 18s team, how many kids are signed D1, D2, who's a Power 5, how many Power 5 kids do you have on your team, what kind of retention did you retain from last year's team to this year's results, right? So you could be the #1 team in the country last year and you lost 7 kids, which included maybe 2 pins and your setter. Maybe you're not going to be as good this year, but if I looked at last year's results, I think you're a power pool team, right? So you have to be honest with us and as we gather that data. And then what are your early season results? I know that that might not be on the JOT form right away. We'll track that internally with some of the MLK weekend, maybe some December events. 18s have a few qualifiers early in January. We'll take all those results into consideration when we're making the decisions. And then any other pertinent information that you want us to know about that specific team. If you know that your team is not a power pool team, don't complete the form. If you know that you're not a top 32, top 40 team in the 17s or 16s, please do not pass it on to a coach to fill out and then a waste of their time and then a waste of your time and then also a waste of our time. So just keep that in mind. In addition to that, January 27th, if you make a note of that, January 27th, we have to have all documentation back to us by January 27th. We will release our power pool teams, not schedule, the power pool teams on February 6th via our live stream through YouTube. Make it feel special for your club, for those teams, for your organization. And then our release of our schedule will be on February 13th. Okay, and that will be on the AES system. Also keep in mind in power pool, we geographically try to spread everyone out so you're not playing someone from your region or someone you played the weekend before. So our power pool, especially in the 15s through 18s, there's 32 power pools. Everyone in 1 through 8, everyone through 9 through 16, everyone through 17 through 24, and 25 through 32 are equal. So Power Pool A, all 8 of those teams are equal in our opinion. They're not seeded 1 through 8, 9 through 16, etc. and so forth. Okay, so keep that in mind that they're all clumped together. If you get into a Power Pool, you're guaranteed to get into the 64-team elite bracket on day 3. Everyone else in the event can earn their way in to the Power Pool and or elite and open, not Power Pool, excuse me, elite and open divisions. So keep that in mind. You're never out of it. If you're not put in a Power Pool, you got to earn your way in for day 2 to get into that top bracket with the elite and the open. So just want to touch base on all that. This is new for the NIT. This is more collection and data information that we need from you all. And we'll obviously still continue to we have great relationships. I love when people reach out to me and advocate for their teams. Just for me to streamline the process on our end, trying to get up with the Joneses with technology, that I'm not just, going back to looking at text messages from ex-coach. And so keep that in mind. If you have questions on that, myself and Sean will be handling the Power Pool selections and working diligently on that. That is not a Brooke or a Sarah thing. So do not reach out to Sarah and be like, come on, Sarah, get my team in a Power Pool. That would be a Jared or Sean situation. So
on the drop form.
Yeah.
For the drop form that I'll be sending out, so let's say that you have a fantastic club and you think your 15s through 18s or your 13s through 18s should have one in each Power Pool. You have to fill out a drop form for each individual team. You can't just lump it in together and be like, my club's great, here you go. It's going to have to be your 13s team, your 14s, your 15s, all of that.
Perfect. Good. One last thing, NIT, once again, we appreciate I know there's a lot of stuff changing in the club volleyball world, and we're very abreast of all of that. We believe in our strong relationships with the market, our excellent community customer service that we provide. We also want to do what's best for our event and for all for you. You've helped us create this event. I've been a part of it for now 7 years. We want to continue to have it climb into the future. And so if you have any questions, concerns, comments, we are always open to getting feedback from you all leading into the event or post-event, and we're excited. None of us are coaching club volleyball this year. Us 3 have been coaches for 22 years, and this is my first non-club volleyball season. I've committed to working hard for my kids and my family, and I'm going to be a dad and watch my kids play, but I'm also excited to give more to the NIT. Then maybe 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I was worried about coaching. So all 3 of us are excited about the future for the NIT, and we're looking forward to working with you all. We also have some other events that I know some of you have played in the past. Our West Coast Invitational Championship in Sandy, Utah is growing a lot in the last year. It was year 2. We're working right now. We're working diligently with Club B Volleyball on an excellent college camp on that Monday following our event at the convention center. So we know there's going to be about 51 really good 50 Division I college coaches in attendance at that event. So if you're looking at getting your kids seen in a more intimate environment with really good volleyball in Sandy, Utah, reach out to Sarah. We would love to have you at the West Coast because that is an event that we feel early June could start to take off. So.
Yeah. Something in addition to that, and I'm sure if you guys have visited the NIT website at all recently, there's been a pop-up. If you guys do commit to going to the West Coast and you are in attendance of the NIT, if you do finish in the top 8 of the NIT in the elite bracket, we will cover your lodging for that team at West Coast. So you just have to pay and commit to coming to the tournament before December 1st. I know that that's coming up. But if that happens and you commit to attending and you finish in the top 8, we will cover lodging for your team to come and attend that event. So we're really excited for that. In addition to that, Jared mentioned this earlier, we did revamp what we're doing for invites and protocols for 2024. One of those adjustments is the overall winner for the top divisions at West Coast will automatically win a berth or a bid into the NIT 2024. So if you have teams that are interested in even contending to earn a spot or earn that golden ticket to go ahead and get into NIT, the West Coast is a great opportunity to do that as well.
Perfect. And last but not least, we have a brand new app. It's specific only to NIT. We'll send that out. You can download that under Google or Apple. It is amazing. It's state of the art. It's professionally done. It was not done by our internal staff downstairs.
Nope.
And so it's a great, it has the schedule. It has everything that's on our website is in the app, and it's phenomenal. And it's directly just for the NIT. It's not Triple Crown Volleyball. It's not the West Coast. It's not any of our other events. It's specific to NIT. So please utilize that and get that in the hands of your coaches and your families. That would be amazing.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. Hope that everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Get your rosters in, get your payments completed, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you all.
Bye.